Good morning, Lake Ridge. I am so glad that you are here and have decided to join us this morning. I'm going to bring a message here in a few minutes, but we have a few folks that are going to share some announcements and some prayer. And my hope is that this morning you are able to experience the work of the Holy Spirit in your own life, and that Spirit is drawing you towards a sense of wanting to learn something new about what God is doing in you and what God is wanting to teach in you, and that it is drawing you towards some form of response to the work of the Spirit in your life. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to pass this off to Tara, and I think Tara is going to give us some announcements this morning. God, for the gift of your presence among us today, I pray, would you be with us? Would you continue to draw us towards your work that you are doing, sometimes in such mysterious ways in our world, sometimes in even very difficult ways to see in your world. Be with us this morning as we come into your presence to worship you. Amen. Pass this off to Tara.
Yeah, look at that smile.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. Hi, good morning, Lake Ridge. We're so happy to be here. It's Tara and Theo, and we are just missing you so much, and we can't wait for one day when we get to gather in person again. But in the meantime, I have the announcements for you here, so I'm going to go through them kind of as quick as I can, and we'll see how this goes. So the first one is our cabin at Camp Chestermere is almost done. Colin Nelson has been doing a ton of work. We've been partnering with them to renovate one of the cabins there, if you didn't know that, and making it just really awesome for the camp. It needed some upgrades, and it's gotten them. It looks really good, so we can't wait to share that with you. But kind of one of the last things happening is the roof. So we are going to be working on that. Pastor Evan is going to be there, and hopefully with some volunteers on Monday and Tuesday this week, starting at 9:30. If you're available to help do the roof on this cabin, that would be really awesome. You can let us know. You can message us, or you can contact Pastor Evan directly to let him know that you'll be there. And really, you just need to bring like a hammer, knife, some gloves, and it's apparently a very teachable thing. So you can show up and do that, and it would be great to have a bit of help to finish that off. The next thing is we've been doing these class connects, and they're kind of one-off small groups that are led by different people in our community who have talents and skills that they want to share with us. So the first one was Michelle Wilson's photography class, which happened last week. This week, the next one is Julie Walton is doing a cooking class on June 17th at 1 p.m. on Zoom. So you can sign up online to be a part of that. You'll get the recipe, and she'll kind of walk you through it. It's going to be really awesome. And then the next one is Ann Sims is doing a Write Your Family Story session. So just kind of helping you figure out your whole family history and story, and then kind of condensing it into something that's going to be a really great keepsake for you long term. So you can sign up and get all the details under lakeridgecommunity.com/small groups. For kids and youth, I'm going to do an announcement about the kids stuff, and then I'm going to let Eric do a quick video after this about youth and Club 56. So kids, we still have our story time happening this week on Zoom. They've been doing some games and some different things, so you can meet them on Thursday at 10 a.m. on Zoom. And all the details, including actually some other lessons and resources, are under our website at lakeridgecommunity.com/kids. Okay, and then the last announcement I have is just about giving. We are so grateful for your gifts and your continued support in this time. It's helped us care for our community and our world, and we need that, so thank you. If it is on your heart to give, you can give through monthly through Canada Helps, and you can also give through e-transfer. And just in the message box, just give us your address so we can make sure you get a tax receipt. You can find all that information on how to give under lakeridgecommunity.com/give. Say bye. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good week.
Hey guys, I'm Eric, the youth ministry leader at Lake Ridge. Basically, I've been running youth throughout the last few months over Zoom, and it's been a great thing, and I've really enjoyed it. But for the summer, I just wanted to let you guys know that we're going to be taking a break from that. One of the agreements that Lake Ridge has had with Camp Chestermere is that during the summer, I'll be spending significantly more time over at Camp Chestermere because I lead a program over there called CLTD. What CLTD is called Christian Leadership Training and Discipleship, and it's a 3-year program that students come back every year for, and they learn about the foundations of their faith, they learn about themselves, they learn to grow as human beings and become just followers of Christ, but also learn about who they are as well. So if you want your students to hang out with me, this is where I'll be. I'll be at Camp Chestermere. So if your student is graduating grade 8 or grade 9, they can sign up for the first year of that. There's going to be 3 programs of that running for 1 week, 2 of them in July, 1 of them in August. There's second and third year also running in that time as well. So if you want your students to come hang out with me, please sign up for CLTD. We also have day camps running here from ages 4 to 15. So sign your students up for that as well, because that's where I'm going to be. And we will resume youth in September. That's just how it was always going to be, is I was going to leave for the summer, but I'm still going to be in the city. I'm still going to be communicating with students at Lake Ridge, and just there's going to be no formal gatherings. There's going to be no formal Zoom meetings anymore. And I don't know what September looks like yet. I don't think anyone does. So whether we relaunch over Zoom or we're relaunching in person, I don't know. But in September, we're going to get back together and start youth in a more formal setting. But yeah, so just so you guys know that I'm not going anywhere. So Minecraft Monday, Club 56, and the Lake Ridge Youth Zoom meetings are going to be taking a break for a couple months now. So, yep, and that's it. And I'm really excited to spend the summer here at Camp Chestermere, and I hope maybe to see some of you guys here throughout the summer. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks.
Hey guys, this time it's Matt and Cesar, and we're really excited to just lead you in a song here. And hopefully this gives you some kind of encouragement during this time, and we're real pumped that you can sing with us here. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise
We miss you guys.
Thanks so much for that. Hey, our message today comes out of Acts chapter 2. And it is essentially the story of the day of Pentecost, the day that the Holy Spirit kind of comes upon the people of God. Now, last week was Pentecost, and so Pastor Preston kind of led us up into that. This week I'm just going to tell a little bit of the story and hopefully give you kind of a little bit of a glimpse into some of the byproducts of what the Holy Spirit was doing among those people of that particular day. So the story now takes place where the disciples and others that were there witnessing, they had just, they had seen Jesus ascend up into heaven, and he had promised that he was going to send this helper, this counselor, a whole bunch of different descriptive words for this Holy Spirit. And there was a lot of mystery. They didn't really know what was going to happen. And so they've been in this period of waiting since seeing Jesus do this incredibly miraculous thing and ascending up into heaven, and so they're just waiting. And so on the day of Pentecost, it says that they were all kind of together there waiting, and they weren't sure what to expect or what would be the sign of the Spirit. It's almost like, one of those old cop movies, where one partner, they're out front of the warehouse and one partner says to the other, "I'm going in, watch for my signal," and he sneaks off, and then the other partner is sitting there going, "What was the signal?" Right? Like, I don't actually know what to expect. And so I think that they were watching and they were waiting, but they didn't know what they were watching and they were waiting for exactly. And I think we experience that in our own lives and in our own story. What's the signal? What does God and God's work look like to us? How do we identify it? And so I think that sometimes we can find ourselves asking questions like that. And not only that, but then what was this Spirit going to do? How was it going to work? What was it going to? What impact was it going to have on their life and on their daily lives, but also on their faith lives and their relationships with others and all of those different kinds of things? Well, as Acts 2 happens and the Spirit comes, there creates this kind of chaotic moment of chaos. And the chaos is both confusing. It says actually some people were very bewildered by what they were experiencing and what they were seeing. And there was like a great wind that blew, and some described that it was like tongues of fire kind of came down and rested above people's heads, and so as more kind of gathered to see what was happening there in that story, they then all of a sudden began to speak in other languages and be able to understand each other in one kind of unified language. And so all of these different people began to gather in this chaotic scene, if you can imagine it. And everybody was able to understand each other. And that shouldn't have been happening, and yet here it was happening, right? And so the sense of bewilderness and confusion and lots of question asking, lots of people wondering, what are we supposed to be seeing here? What are we supposed to be experiencing here? And yet here it was all kind of happening, right? And it was then that kind of Peter gets up and Peter begins to describe from his perspective what he saw was happening. And so he gets up and he uses actually an old story, actually a prophetic word from the prophet Joel to say some things about what they were witnessing. I'm sorry, my neighbor's dog wants to preach this morning. I don't know what that's about, but I guess everybody wants in on this television action adventure that we kind of got going on here. So in Acts 2, anyways, verses 17 and 19 are these ancient texts, these ancient words that the people of the day would likely have heard or have understood because they were part of their ancient texts. And I just want to read them real quick for you. But here's what Peter uses to help them see and experience some context. He says, "In the last days, God says, for I will pour out my Spirit on all people. Your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions, and your old men will dream dreams. even my own servants, both men and women. I will pour out my Spirit on all of them in those days, and they will prophesy. And he goes on, and there's more in there, but for the sake of our conversation and time today, I'm just going to share that little bit. Right? So this big event, amazing things happen. It's bewildering, it's confusing. Not everybody are people really of faith, is understanding what's really happening. And Peter gets up to give some clarity, and he says, look, this is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing. This is what we're experiencing. So I just want to take like a couple of quick minutes to kind of describe or give some examples of the many ways that we see in this text, but also that we can see in other places in our own lives where the Spirit kind of demonstrates itself. Okay, so today I just want to kind of go up to like a 10,000 foot look, kind of down view of what we can see. Well, the first thing that I really want to point out is that we see immediately that the Spirit doesn't discriminate. I want you to hear that today, that we see immediately that the Spirit does not discriminate. Boy, there is a lot of things going on in our world that are tearing at the fabric of humanity, I think. And yet here in this story on the day of Pentecost, and as the prophet Joel had prophesied earlier, that the Spirit doesn't discriminate. It's poured out over men and women. It's poured out of all different kinds of races. That people that shouldn't have been able to speak to each other and understand each other were able to speak to each other and understand each other via the work of the Holy Spirit in them, right? And what an incredible thing that it didn't matter whether you were young or old or what race you were, right? It didn't matter what your class was, if you were a servant or if you were an upperclassman, right? That the Spirit did not discriminate. And I just think that that's beautiful. Right. Now the second thing that Preston talked about last week a little bit was just how the Spirit was referred to as ruach. That ruach was the sound of the Spirit, the breath of God, as Preston kind of talked about it last week, and we've talked about that at Lake Ridge before too. If ever there was a time right in our world where we could use the ruach, the breath of God on our world, the non-discriminative, the work of the Holy Spirit, it's now. It's in our place. My heart breaks for what I see, not only happening in the United States, but what it has awakened even in us here in Canada, in terms of the way that we see each other. So the first thing is that the Holy Spirit doesn't discriminate. The second thing that I wanted to point out this morning, and that we see on the day of Pentecost, was that the gift of the Holy Spirit was to empower people to join Him in the righteous work of healing and restoration, and the restoration of God's good creation, God's good work. Right? The Spirit of God, right, is on a mission to transform the human heart. To transform the human heart so that we could truly see God's intent, God's love, not only for us, but for all things that He has created. Right? We could all likely, even right now, use a bunch of that right now in our life, in our story. To recognize that the Holy Spirit is meant to restore. It is meant to be breathed upon us so that we might be co-workers in the good work of healing and restoration. Right? I think that one of the things that the Holy Spirit is doing in me these days, to be honest with you, is the work that it's doing in me is it's shedding light on me and how I see the world, and to be honest, some of the ways in which I need to see the world differently. Right? I felt more compelled in the last couple of weeks to listen to the hurting of in particular our Black community, but our Indigenous community as well. So I might be able to learn to have my heart transformed and to see differently, and see more as the Holy Spirit, as God sees, in a non-discriminative sort of a way. I think that that's one of the things that the Holy Spirit is doing in me, and I'm asking for it to do that as well. My third and last thing that I wanted to point out for us this morning was the true byproducts of people who had been moved by or who had experienced the Holy Spirit. Right, the last part of Acts chapter 2 demonstrates the people's drawing or their commitment to a couple of things. The first thing was their commitment to the apostles' teaching, a commitment to learn, a commitment to open themselves up to the possibility of God teaching them something new. Now, one of the things I've learned about learning is that in order for me to truly learn something, I first have to come with some sense of humility or confession that I don't actually know everything, that I have things to learn, right? And so please, I beg you, don't ask the Holy Spirit to teach you something if you aren't first willing to allow the Holy Spirit to convict you that you have something to learn, and that we don't know everything that there is to learn. There's two parts of choosing to become students of the heart of God and students of how we might care for our world and care for creation via the Holy Spirit. Now, the second thing, or the second byproduct ultimately of experiencing the Holy Spirit, is a commitment to community, right? To fellowship. The text actually tells us that they broke bread together, that they met together, that they continued to do those things. And I know that's crazy to hear these days in our pandemic challenges. However, a commitment to your community, right, to living in the best interest of your neighborhood, can be done right now, and actually must be done right now. Some of that maybe is via technology and some of the gifts that we have through the gift of the internet, but also engaging those around us in our neighborhoods who are not like us, who actually could shed great light via the Holy Spirit on how we could see the world differently. A byproduct of the Holy Spirit is that we're compelled to do that. So I encourage you to live into that. So two kind of clear byproducts of experiencing the Holy Spirit is a commitment to learn and listen, right? And a commitment to community, right? When they did this in the text, it actually shows that a profound generosity was experienced in the community, in their neighborhood. A marker of the work of the Holy Spirit was the unity that they experienced. Not just in speaking of the same tongue so that they could understand each other. I think that's the first part. But that was really the way in which they could come to learn each other's stories and the hurts and the pains of their past stories that inform the way that they see, which we've talked a lot about at Lake Ridge, right? But also that it informed their actions and where they would spend their money or where they would give their resources to. So as I wrap up this morning, I just want to ask you to consider what you need from God's Spirit today. So maybe a couple of questions. The first one is, what do you hope for? And maybe this is a good question to ask God, right? What do you believe God needs to teach you right now? What are the areas where you need to learn and listen? And then the second is to consider also, how is God's Spirit asking you to serve right now? What is it asking you to do right now? I think it's in these two kind of questions that God is trying to shed light on our world. I think He's trying to teach us something very, very difficult about the way in which we classify each other and the way in which we value each other. If we're not willing to address that we don't know everything about that, then And I think we have to question if we're open to the work of the Holy Spirit in our life right now. And then the second thing is as we learn, what will be our commitment towards change. As your pastor, I challenge you that God has never wanted us to stay stagnant. The work of the Holy Spirit was given actually to draw us towards a growing and moving life. So I encourage you to think about that today. Thank you so much. Would you pray with me? God, I confess to you that the events of these past few weeks have been hard on my spirit, on my soul. God, I confess that I have seen a great many things that I still need to learn. God, I pray, would you be with us, and through the work of your Holy Spirit, would you give us a sense of a deep desire to learn and to grow. And God, that you would give us courage to know what to do and how to act via your Holy Spirit. I thank you that your Holy Spirit comes with so many things, including the gift of wisdom, of love, and compassion. Be with us in these days, that we may be people of transformation, people of restoration. I pray these things in your name. Amen. It is good to be with you again this morning, Lakeridge. So I received the benediction. And so now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance on you and give you his peace this day. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, we pray. Amen. Have a great week.